on Psalm 27. So if you can turn to Psalm 27, we're going to read from verse 1 onwards. And the topic is, coming into his presence, in his presence. Okay, so this is a Psalm of David. Am I clear? Is everybody hearing me all right? Thumbs up? Okay, thank you. Psalm 27, verse 1. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? So here you have David, a man who's been on the run. He's had all kinds of experiences in life. And he's saying this. When the wicked, verse 2, when the wicked advance against me to devour me, it is my enemies and my foes who will stumble and fall. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then I will be confident. Look at what David is saying. Whatever happens around me, it's okay. I will still be confident. And then in verse 4, he says the reason why he is confident. He says, one thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. You got to remember the Old Testament setting. At this point in David's life, there is even no temple. There is no temple. They have the Ark of the Covenant that represents the temple. I don't know in this psalm where it is at this point. So here you have the situation when David says, I want to dwell in the house of the Lord. He's not talking about a physical temple. They don't have a physical temple at this point. But he says, one thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, this only one thing that I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. That I may dwell. He doesn't say I may visit the house of the Lord. He says, there's one thing that I seek, there's only one thing that I want, is that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. That means he says, I want to reside there in the presence of God. To gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. To gaze on the beauty of the Lord. He says, I want to just be in adoration and admiration of the Lord. I want to be in his presence. And I just want to adore him. I want to gaze at him. That's what I want to do. That's this one thing that I want to do. I was just thinking, let's say during my younger days when Veera and I were courting, that was this one. She was in Saudi Arabia and I was in India. And this was one thing that I wanted to be with her. That every day, morning, evening, night, whatever the time is, this one desire that I have is to be in her presence, to be with her. My heart longed for her. That's what the kind of thing that David is talking about. I think it's much more than that because this is God. He says, my heart, that my desire, this one thing that I have is to be in the presence of God. How many of us have this desire? You know why we don't have this desire? We don't know what it is like to be in the presence of God. Most of us, or none of us, know what it really is like to be in the presence of God. Or how to even go into the presence of God. A lot of us think that prayer is being in the presence of God. So we go, we start praying. We said, God, take care of me, protect me from this coronavirus, protect my family, protect everybody I know from this coronavirus, protect this nation, protect the nations of the world. God bless my children. God, give me the money that I need to pay my bills. We think that we are in the presence of God. We pray, me. And we say, God, hear my prayers, and we walk out. We have never reached the presence of God. We are still in the realm of the flesh. If you check out your prayers, it's all about things. It's all about needs. You're still in the realm of the flesh. I don't know if you remember the conversation that Jesus had with the Samaritan woman. He said, those who worship me must worship me in spirit and in truth. How can you worship in spirit? That's the interesting question. How can I worship in the spirit? How can I go into the presence, into the spiritual realm where God exists, where God lives? How can I take myself from the physical realm into the spiritual realm? In Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 29 onwards, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 29 onwards, it says, He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fail. Verse 31 says, But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Verse 31 actually, the King James translates it as those who wait on the Lord. It can be translated as hope, but I believe in this place it says those who wait on the Lord. Because what happens is we go into the presence of God, we're still in the flesh, we're praying in the flesh, but that is only the first step. Okay, let's use this as an illustration. So I'm here in the flesh and I'm praying in the flesh. God is here, He's in the spirit. He's in the spirit realm, okay? This is another, let me see if I can pick up something from here. Okay, so this is the spiritual realm. God is in the spirit, the realm of the spirit. I'm in the realm of the flesh, and I'm praying right now in the realm of the flesh. I'm praying, God, this, I want that. Bless me, bless my kids, bless everything that I have. Help me financially, do this. I'm still in the realm of the flesh. What the psalmist is saying is, wait. Wait upon the Lord. Spend more time. Forget about it. Be still and know. Be still. Be still in the presence of God. You pray your prayers, it's okay. But be still in the presence of God. Be aware not of yourself, not of your flesh, but be aware of God. Be aware of the spiritual realm. Be aware of His presence. And slowly but surely, you're going closer and closer into the presence of God. And as you wait and wait and wait, you're ushered into His presence. Now you're able to adore Him. Now you're able to gaze at His face. Now you're able to enjoy His presence. And once you have a taste of His presence, you'll be like David. Lord, I want to just come and dwell in your presence. Not just visit, The psalmist says, as the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longs after you. How many of us have this cry? Why we don't? Because we have never entered into this realm of the Spirit, where we say, God, wow, God, I can gaze at your face, I can adore you, I can worship you. Worship comes when you enter His presence. You may think, Sunday morning we sing a few songs, that is worship. You've never really entered His presence. Why do we do these songs? We do these songs so that we can get into that, something that helps our flesh to forget the flesh and move on into the presence. Something that distracts us from the flesh. It's just an aid. But it's up to you to forget everything, wait upon Him, and enter His presence. Walk into His presence and enjoy His presence. Gaze at His face in adoration and worship Him. Back to Psalm 27. Verse 5 says, for in the day of trouble, He will keep me safe in His dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of His sacred tent and set me upon a rock. He will hide me where? In the shelter of His sacred tent. The hiding place is here, not here. The hiding place is not in the flesh. The hiding place is in the Spirit. As you dwell in His presence, this is where the hiding place is. This is where the protection is. Verse 6, he says, then my head will be exalted above the enemies who surround me. At His sacred tent I will sacrifice with shouts of joy. I will sing and make music to the Lord. Not here. Not here in the flesh. Where? It's here in the spiritual. When I'm in the presence of God and I'm gazing at His face, I'm shouting and I'm making music to the Lord. This is where the adoration takes place. This is where the worship takes place. Those who worship me must worship me in spirit and in truth. This is where worship takes place. So if you say you're worshiping God over here, false. It doesn't happen here. You're still in the realm of the flesh. You can worship God only over here. As you push forward, as you push into His presence, as you say, no flesh, don't think of the food, don't think of the sleep, don't think of this, don't think of that, don't think of your children, don't think about your dog or whatever it is. You're completely absent to the flesh. This is where everything happens, in the Spirit. I will sing and make music to the Lord. And he says, I will sacrifice with shouts of joy. Verse 7, hear my voice when I call, Lord. Be merciful to me and answer me. My heart says, if you seek His face, your face, Lord, I will seek. That is his heart's cry. That is where he dwells all the days of his life. This is where his protection comes. This is where his confidence comes. Not over here. Over here he's exposed. He's exposed to the anxieties of life, the worries of life. Oh, the COVID, the finances. My mind is weary. I cannot focus on God. But over here, everything else is gone. Everything else is gone. And I'm here offering myself as a living sacrifice to God. Because when you come here, when you gaze at His face, everything is gone. You become confident. You don't worry about your enemies. Everything, even Jasmine's exams are not a problem. Because, why? Because here, I'm in His presence. I'm confident. Whenever he says that when I'm in his presence, I'm confident. Whatever the enemies do, whatever the armies of others are doing, it doesn't matter because I'm in the presence of God. I'll just go to verse 14. It says here, wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord. If you read the Psalms, you will see this wait upon the Lord is a constant theme. Wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We all start from here. I wish I could directly enter into his presence. I just go, close myself in the closet, and I'm enter his presence. It can happen, but it takes time. It takes practice. But right now, when we are here in the flesh, when I mean flesh, I don't mean our sin nature. Our sin nature has been cut off. But this physical body is here right now in the realm of the flesh. And I have to wait. I have to let this realm of the flesh fade away. Focus on him. And little by little, I'm ushered into his presence. And when I'm in his presence, there's fullness of joy. There's peace. There's tranquility. I can see his face. I can worship him. I can adore him. There's no sickness over here. There's no war over here. There's nothing over here. I'm insulated from everything because I'm confident that I'm in the presence of God. Let's go to Psalm 91. This is a psalm that is often quoted during this time of pestilence. Psalm 91, verse 1. It says, whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High, or the King James says, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High. The secret place is not here in the realm of the flesh. The secret place is here in the realm of the Spirit. He that dwelleth in the secret place or in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. The shadow of the Almighty is not there in the realm of the flesh. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Then he says, surely he'll save me from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, at 10,000 at your right side, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you say, the Lord is my refuge, and you make the Most High your dwelling. When does this happen? If you say, the Lord is my refuge, and you make the Most High your dwelling. You can stand in the flesh and say all these things, but if you don't make the Most High your dwelling, it's not applicable to you. It's only if you make the Most High your dwelling. So what are you actually saying? Even though I am not all the time here physically, but I'm there in my spirit, dwelling with the Lord. Dwelling, I'm not visiting. For us, it's like, okay, once a day I visit. No, I'm not visiting. I'm dwelling here. I'm in his embrace. I'm with him all the time. This is my dwelling place. This is not the place I visit once a day. Okay? So if you say the Lord is my refuge and you make the Most High your dwelling. No harm will overtake you. No disaster will come near your tent, for he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands. You will not strike your foot against a stone. You know, it's interesting that Jesus, in one of the Gospels, I believe it's in Luke chapter 4. We can turn there. Luke chapter 4, verse 28. Luke chapter 4, verse 28 says, all the people in the synagogue were furious when they heard this. They got up, drove him out of the town, and took him to the brow of the hill on which the town was built in order to throw him off the cliff. Verse 30 says, really interesting. But he walked right through the crowd and went on his way. I don't know, it's not very descriptive. They took him, they were going to throw him over the cliff. It says Jesus just walked right away. Walked right out of the crowd. Out of the crowd. Jesus walked right through the crowd and went on his way. Jesus, all the time in his earthly ministry, even as the Son of God, he slipped away. The Bible says he slipped away and spent time alone in the presence of God. He spent time alone in this realm, in the dwelling place of God, and he worshiped God, he adored God, and he dwelt. He says, I'm in the Father, and the Father is in me. He dwelt in that presence all the time. That was what enabled Jesus to do what he did. He entered and dwelt in the presence of his Father. And he said, I'm in the Father and the Father is in me. That same verse we read in John chapter 14, we read that it says that I'm in the Father, if the Father is in me, I am in you, and you are in me, and I am in the Father. That's applicable to us too. We can enter that presence. As believers, we have the presence of God in us. But how many of you are constantly aware of that presence in you? How many of you visit that presence? No, we don't. That is what we need to do. We need to move out of our flesh. We need to get this body out of the way. Paul says, I beat my flesh. I bring it to subjection. What is he trying to say? His spirit is trying to subject his flesh to listen to his spirit, which is listening to the Spirit of God. His spirit and the Spirit of God is one, and he's saying, I subject my body. I bring my body into subjection. That is what we need to do. We sit here, and your body is saying, hey, food. Body is saying, what about my bills? You're trying to sit in the presence of God, but you're totally disturbed and distracted by the natural. Your flesh is screaming out, let me out, let me out. I need to go eat. I need to go do the things. I need to be busy. Beat your flesh into subjection and say, flesh, listen to me. We need to go to the presence of God, to the dwelling place of God. Wait in his presence. Wait. Sometimes it takes 2 hours. Sometimes it takes 3 hours. Even if it takes a whole day, wait. Wait till you are ushered into the presence of God. And here you can sing out. Sing. You can praise him. You can adore him. People, a lot of people struggle with speaking in tongues. It doesn't happen here. It happens here. It comes automatically. As you sit in his presence, as you enjoy this in the spiritual realm, everything, your body becomes a living sacrifice. Romans chapter 12 verse 1 says, offer your bodies as living sacrifices. Offer your bodies as living sacrifices. So what do? You cut off your body and offer it. Say, when you go into the presence of God, there is a sacrifice that you got to take. And that sacrifice is this body. You offer it to God and say, God, I give up my body. It's dead. Once you sacrifice your body becomes dead. You sacrifice, and then you enter the presence of God. You cannot enter the presence of God without a sacrifice. Even in the Old Testament, you cannot enter the presence of God without a sacrifice. You have to sacrifice in order to enter the presence of God. That is why Romans chapter 12, we can turn there. Romans chapter 12, verse 1. It says, therefore, I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. That is where this is your spiritual act of worship. So I'm here in the flesh and saying, God, I offer my flesh to you as a living sacrifice. Everything in this flesh, when you sacrifice it, it's dead. When it's dead, then you're ushered into the presence of God. And you're able to worship Him in spirit and in truth. You're able to openly sing and shout and gaze at His face. And that is what I believe Jesus meant when He said, the world will not see the Holy Spirit, but you will see Him. How many of you have seen the Holy Spirit? I haven't seen Him. I myself am learning this truth. God is showing it to me that, hey, you know what? Why you're not ushered into the presence of God? Because you're stuck in the physical. You're stuck in the flesh. You're stuck in the natural. You spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour, and then you give up. Don't give up. Wait. The Bible says, wait. The psalmist, even in Psalm 27, he says, wait. There are other psalms that says wait. If you have to read all those, it'll be a lot. But the book of Lamentations. This is written by Jeremiah, chapter 3 and verse 22. It says, because of the Lord's great love. The book of Lamentations, chapter 3, verse 22 onward says, because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. The Lord is my portion. Therefore, I wait for Him. The Lord is my portion. Therefore, I wait for Him. The Lord is good to those who hope in Him, whose hope is in Him, to the one who seeks Him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is good to wait quietly. So, the overall theme of Psalms, a lot of these places, you can see this word, wait. Wait. Because unless you wait, you're here now, and I've got to wait. I've got to sacrifice this body. This body has to become dead to me for a while. Because what? I'm going into His presence. I'm discarding my flesh, because in my flesh, I cannot go into His presence. I can go to His presence only in the Spirit. That is why a lot of people fast. Fasting helps you to discipline the flesh. It helps you to sacrifice the flesh. It helps you to forget the flesh and move into the realm of the Spirit. This is where everything happens. This is where you have the protection. This is where you have the confidence. No matter what happens all around you, you may have the coronavirus, you may have all things happen around you, just like David. But he says, I dwell in the secret place of the Most High. Whatever happens on my right or my left doesn't affect me, because I live in the presence of God. This is my prayer, that all of you start practicing this presence. Start practicing. Give up the flesh. Focus on Him. I was as I was meditating all these things, I was thinking of, the Hindus. What do? They come and they I remember I did when I was doing my engineering, I remember going for this yoga class. And there, the instructor will say, close your eyes and think of nothing. I was like, how do I think of nothing? So he said, yeah, you can do it. So he said, so I close my eyes, I think of nothing, my mind goes blank, then I get this feeling that I'm floating. This is how they are able to do all kinds of stuff, but that's a whole different spirit. That's a completely different spirit. They can do. They levitate. They walk on coals. They can sleep on a bed of nails and all kinds of stuff. Well, how do they do that? They transcend from the physical to the spiritual. I'm not saying you do that, but I'm just saying, the pagans, they have a way to go into the spiritual. We also have a way, say, sacrifice your bodies as give up your bodies, sacrifice the flesh, forget about everything about the flesh, and focus on Him, and little by little, you will move into the spiritual realm. Okay, don't try yoga. This is just an example.